From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hutchavandi
and Corey Clark.
Got some oceanfront property in Arizona.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, practice thoughts, managing your quarterbacks, commitment, and Mike Norvell, the Arizona State. What? Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. The promo code is nothing. It's just $1. Go to the website, sign up, because you know what, everybody? All good things come to an end. And this $1 promo for an entire year of access to Warchant.com is probably going to end here, I don't know, end of the month, looking like it, sounding like it. So, you know, you're going to come aboard at some point. Why not do it now when it's only $1? Or you can do it in like 3 weeks and spend $100. But that's not good. That's not good sound economical stuff. And you're a smart person because you listen to Wake Up Warchant, which is presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida. cptallybar.com. That is the website. There's a QR code. You pull out your phone. You get the camera out. You put the phone on the barcode. Boom. Go right to the website. Check out the daily lunch specials, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can always put your orders online, pick it up. But, you know, again, you walk into that enchanted facility and you're like, okay, this is why Corey Clark talks about this place being the best side of heaven. As our guy Daryl used to say, Captain D63, he's over at Warchant.com as well. Corey Clark's here, though. That's the most important thing. How are you, Corey?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. Went to Corner Pocket on Monday night to watch a little Monday Night Football, but those games were terrible. Yeah. And then obviously trivia on Tuesday. We do what we can. We're at Corner Pocket a good bit, and always good time. And then I think you're going to want to be there on Saturday before the game. Maybe do a little pre-gaming at CP before you head over to Doak. And then Sunday they got the Direct TV, so you can watch all your NFL games. They got it. And the best part about Corner Pocket, legitimately, is they have people working the remotes that know how to work the remotes. Where you say, "Hey, can you switch this TV to the Lions game?" Like, I don't know anybody who would say that, but if they did, there's going to be like somebody that goes, "Oh yeah, it's channel whatever, 244, 715," and he just hits it real quick, and that TV is the Lions game. So that's what I love about. That's one of the things I love about Corner Pocket. And also, don't forget, Jeff and I will be there Friday night for the Warchant Happy Hour from 5:30 to 6:30.
That's right. Yeah, pregame at Corner Pocket, then head to Hotel Indigo for the pregame show with Jeff and Tom Saturday. Warchant game day presented by Zaxby's. Good cookout. There's going to be a tailgate buffet. Treat yourself. Enjoy it. So lots going on this weekend. First home game in about a month, Corey, crazy enough. Can you believe it? So,
I can't, man. It's been a long time. Yeah. It feels like forever since Jeff and I did that thing, what we do at Corner Pocket. And also Friday night they have Kelsey Lamb performing. We're the opening act for Kelsey Lamb, who is a country artist. We've talked about her on the show before. So, yeah, she's a country / I think it'll be a little rocky, but it's also country. She'll be in town Friday night for a little live music if that's what floats your boat.
Yeah, so we'll have Michael Langston, the replay of Michael Langston's reaction to the Blake Nichelsen announcement, which as of recording of this has not happened, but we think it's going to be Florida State. And if it's not, I haven't learned my lesson, and I'll maybe edit something out of the show.
There you go. Smart.
You know, I don't want to bury the lead. Let's get to this part first. You know, a couple people tagged us in this on Twitter. Looked at it. It's, you know, the Arizona Republic, which is the, you know, I think the paper of record in the state of Arizona, which I don't know what is, we're the Sunshine State, you're the Peach State. I don't know what Arizona is. Like the Territorial State? I don't know, because the Territorial Cup, I don't know. Anyhow, as you folks might know, Arizona State now has a vacancy because Herm Edwards got fired after they noticed how awesome Johnny Wilson played on Friday night in Louisville, and they're like, you let that guy leave? You gone. He also lost to a directional Michigan school that was on their backup quarterback and a running back whose career high was like 86 yards, and he ripped off over 200 yards. So mutual parting of ways between Herm Edwards, my guy, and Arizona State. And this story in the Arizona Republic or the Arizona, I'm sorry, I don't know the newspaper, which is bad form on my part, but they linked to a website called betarizona.com that says Mike Norvell is the odds-on favorite, although you apparently can't even bet on this thing, so what does it even matter? But he's being floated out as from this one entity as being the odds-on favorite. Now, juxtapose that against Pete Thamel, who's pretty rock solid on this stuff. He's really in tune with the college agents, which is who you need to know when these things come open. And he labeled and rattled off like a dozen names after this news broke of Herm getting let go. Brian Harsin, Kalani Sitake from BYU, Jonathan Smith, Oregon State, Tom Herman, Troy Calhoun, Charles Huff. I mean, an extensive list. Bill O'Brien, Todd Monken. I mean, the list is long. Mike Norvell is not on his list. I would trust Pete Thamel much more than BetArizona.com. I can't. I'd rather live in Tempe than Tallahassee. Sorry, everybody, but if I have to coach football, I would be coaching football in Tallahassee over coaching football.
I was going to say, if you had Mike Norvell's job, where would you rather live?
Yeah, listen,
not quite the amount of talent in the desert as there is in the state of Florida.
If Gene's like, hey man, you can go live in Tempe and I'll pay you the same amount of money and you can keep your job, I'd be like, all right, I'll probably go do that then. But it doesn't work that way. I have to live here, and I'll live here.
What's the deal? You like Gila monsters?
I like that dry heat, Corey. I like that dry heat.
I guess so, man. Gila monsters aren't cute at all. And cactus. I think that would be that's incredible. Like the way I could see that happening is if somehow it falls off a cliff here and he goes 6-6. And there's no way that like Mike Norvell, if he gets this thing rolling, like it looks like it's starting to churn up the hill in the right direction, that you would leave to go to Arizona State. There's zero chance. They don't. It's not like they have a ton of money like A&M. They don't have oil money out there. They have sand money, which is nothing at all. There's nothing out there. I think Herm Edwards was making like 3.5, so he was getting paid appreciably less than Mike Norvell is currently. I just couldn't imagine a scenario where anyone would leave Florida State for Arizona State. Just couldn't but an interesting name. So we've already given it too much credence. But the interesting name that I did see, or just people bandied about on Twitter, was Kenny Dillingham. He is an Arizona State grad. He coached there. He is
from Arizona. Yeah,
he's from Arizona. You remember, Norvell's from Arkansas.
No, he's from Texas. He coached Arkansas. He's from Texas. I made the mistake of saying that to him one time. He's like, I'm from Texas. I'm like, my bad. Carry on.
Well, it's all the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
Arkansas, Texarkana. Yeah, come on.
Exactly.
You're all combined there. But, yeah, Dillingham's from Arizona. He went to Arizona State. He's an up-and-coming coach. That would not be a sideways job. And, in fact, that's an insult to Florida State to call Arizona State a sideways job. That's not lateral. That's backwards. I mean, what's Arizona State won in our lifetimes? Jake Plummer almost won a championship 26 years ago. That's all they got. And they've had some good players roll through there. But that was another thing, Aslan, because we were talking about the stadium. That stadium only seats 53,000.
Apparently, yeah.
It used to seat 75. Like, that's where Arizona State is, because I went there. I was in the Fiesta Bowl, and I was like, man, there's no way that stadium only sat 53,000 when I was in that stadium for the Tennessee-Florida State national championship game. By the way, Arizona State has not played in a national championship game in that stadium or anywhere else. And yeah, then I looked it up, and at the time in the 80s and 90s, it was over 70,000. And now it's down to 53,000. That's the amount of interest that there is in Arizona State football. They've cut their stadium by almost 20,000 seats.
And it was still at
still can't fill it up.
Yeah, it was at 82% capacity, which I would guarantee is at least like a 5% overshot. So like 43,788 were there.
It's crazy when you think about it, though. We'll get into Florida State here in a second, but like Arizona State and Florida State were very similar programs in the early 80s. Like fun programs, they threw the ball a ton. They played every year, always out there. And Florida State always won like crazy shootout games. They played, I think, 2 or 3 times out there. They won one game like 52-44. And just the directions of the two programs since the early 80s. Like Arizona State was similar colors, obviously similar fan base, similar students, both considered at the time in the early 80s to mid to late 80s party schools with attractive women. They were sister schools almost.
Yes,
and then,
exactly.
And then one diverged into become this football behemoth, and the other one just kind of stayed a party school that never really made a dent in the world of college football. And then here you are thinking people. I mean, that's just crazy. That's just crazy to think that the head coach at Florida State would leave to go to Arizona State. You could say the same thing about A&M. I get it, because A&M's had about the same amount of success in its history as Arizona State, but A&M has a ton of money, and Arizona State, as far as I know, does not.
Yeah, and that conference isn't exactly on really firm ground either. So
correct. Exactly.
I mean, just unless his wife is absolutely miserable here, which we see her every Wednesday during Wife Walk Wednesday, maybe that's the only thing that could happen. But obviously, you can also be like, honey, we're making $5 million living in Florida. Trust the process. We'll get this thing turned around.
No state income tax. You get to coach Johnny Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that good stuff.
That's crazy, though. Arizona State apparently has more wins. Actually, that was Arizona. I pulled up on Arizona State. I want to try to get the head-to-head record on us, but I can't find it quick enough. But anyway,
I know they won a couple in the 80s, for sure. Florida State did.
Oh, yeah, I trust you. I believe you. All right, here we go. There it is. Largest margin of victory in the series for the Noles, 31-3 back in 1979. We had a 3-game win streak from 79 to 84, 3 of them. So
there you go. Yep.
Put that in your
Greg Allen ran all over those fools out there in the desert. They didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah, we're 3-2 all time. Last time we obviously played was that Sun Bowl game. So.
Oh, that's right, the Jaden Daniels game. But you got revenge on him too.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I guess we should be flattered by it. Do you guys want me to ask Norvell? Huh? You guys want me to ask Mike? I think Mike. I don't know. Like, it's so preposterous. He might actually like laugh kind of and be like flattered by it. Or would it just be a total like jerk move to ask that question? Like, hey, coach, like your name is being floated out there. Like, are you happy? I don't know. Listen, I like needling people sometimes, but like that might be one that maybe even I would feel uncomfortable asking. So we'll see. Stay tuned.
Only because you don't. It's not like Jimbo to LSU rumors.
Yeah.
Or Jimbo to A&M rumors. This is utterly preposterous, and I don't want to be on freezing cold takes. There's no part of me that would think that anybody with a sound mind and an IQ in triple digits would leave Florida State for Arizona State. It just would make zero sense. What, rebuild again? Do all this work for the last 3 years? Actually have this thing going in the right direction and then jump into the desert? Come on, man.
Maybe he's like, Johnny, will you go back? Like, I'll go. Will you come with me? And then that's
oh, yeah, Johnny transfers back. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. You're not allowed to transfer back after you've transferred away.
Yeah, listen, he was there for a couple of years as an OC. I don't know how much he fell in love with that place. But, hey, Jimbo loved LSU and was only an OC there, and apparently
Jimbo won a national championship in Baton Rouge. What did Norvell win in Tempe? 7 games a year? Come on.
The Micron PC Bowl.
That's right. We all remember that.
All right. So we spoke to Coach and several players after practice on Tuesday. You guys all want to know about Jordan Travis. He was out there. He was practicing. So that's something to maybe factor into your minds. Did ask Coach about whether or not Tate having a good week of practice and playing well on Friday, if that affects anything, and Jordan's evaluation is independent of anything that Tate has done or will do this week. If Jordan's prepared, he'll play, I think is something to that extent is what Coach said. So, injuries are starting to pile up, but the fact that he was out there, good sign. We don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback. Even if we did find out, we probably wouldn't be able to tell you guys because them the rules. But anything stand out to you watching practice on Tuesday or anything that was said afterwards, Corey, that caught your seasoned veteran journalist ear?
No, but I think Ira made a good point on headlines when there's a lot of people that listen to this show that are going to try to splice what we say and really bear down on what we say. We're talking about the diehards and the ones on the message boards too that are examining practice footage and that are going through our practice reports and looking for names and looking for this and looking for that. Ira's point was, even if we say somebody practiced or was at practice, we don't know what they're looking for to convince themselves or get the doctor's information that they're ready to play. On the same token, if somebody didn't practice on a Tuesday or Wednesday while we're there to watch, it doesn't mean they don't practice on Thursday and are ready to play. So there is going to be some gray area when it comes to mainly the guys that you saw all leave the field on Friday night. We will not know. What I will say, and I said this on headlines, so I'll say it again. From what I could tell at practice on Tuesday, none of the injuries that we saw on Friday night are season enders. I think that's fair to say. I think that's fair to say. Now, we don't. Okay. There's no timetable. We won't know a timetable. But I did not see anything from my vantage point that would tell me, okay, that kid maybe for the bowl game. Like, I didn't see anything like that. But again, we'll know, and we'll know on Saturdays because This guy is very open. He's very accessible, but he is steadfast in his injury policy, and he is not going to tell us. He would tell us, I think, if somebody had a season ender. Yeah. I do think that. He's proven that. He's done it.
Oh, so your point, you mentioned on the show the other day, like if somebody's done for the season, we'll find out after the game.
Probably next Monday, I would think.
Like he sat on the Bless Harris news, kind of.
Yes, exactly right. So I think we would find out next Monday, but just from my vantage point, it didn't seem like that was something to be worried about, at least the people you guys are worried about. Did not seem season enders, but look, man, no matter who was back, how quickly they come back, we know the depth is going to be tested. We just know it. And, maybe Tate has to play Saturday. There is a chance. I don't know the percentage, but there is a chance that Tate has to play. I thought he looked good on Tuesday. I thought he kind of carried over what he did on Friday night against Louisville, and I thought he looked sharp, in my opinion. And Tom's opinion, too. He wrote about it on our site. I thought he looked sharp on Tuesday, and I thought Johnny Wilson stacked another good day on top of what he did Friday night. He made a play, Aslan. I don't know if you saw it. It was in one-on-ones. He just sprinted past Akeem Dent, and Akeem Dent's a good college football player. He's good safety, good college football player. Might play in the league one day. Johnny Wilson's faster than we think he is, but what he did, Aslan, which I hadn't seen him do before, he sprints by Akeem Dent. Rodemaker launches a deep ball. Johnny Wilson's running full speed, looking up, and at the last possible second as the ball, because Akeem Dent's in his hip. He ran past him, but Akeem Dent's right there. At the last possible second, my man throws the late hands out there. As the ball is almost at his chest, dropping down into the bucket is when he puts his hands out. So Akeem Dent had no idea the ball was even coming because he didn't telegraph it at all. He didn't have his hands out, because if you have your hands out, the guy knows the ball's coming and he can rip it out, or he can put his hands on top of your arms, and so you can't catch it. Johnny Wilson waited till the ball was almost helmet high coming down, if you guys can picture that, before he stuck his hands out. That was something I had not seen before. And it was a 50, 60-yard touchdown. And he had another one against the scout team. He as Alex Atkins said on Monday, he's a problem. Now, he's not going to catch everything. There'll be, again, like I always say, there'll be some moments where you're like, I didn't see him drop anything on Tuesday, but receivers drop passes. I think Rashad Green has the best hands of anybody I've ever covered. And he dropped a huge pass in the national championship game. It happens. But my man is starting to learn the position, and I really wonder, we talk about the confidence of Tate. What did that do for Johnny Wilson's confidence to go out there and not just have a good day and prove that he's a good college receiver, but could be a dominating college receiver? On that stage, we'll see, but he might be ready to take off, man.
Yeah, we talked about in the offseason, like, when are we going to stop hedging and trying to, qualify and couch and everything with Johnny Wilson? And you finally were like, no, I'm like, all right, we'll do it then. Say it. Like, all right, fine, I will. Like, I think that kid's going to be a potential difference maker for this program this year. It's one game. Understood. Got it. I'm all in on the kid, though. I think, if you told me over under 58 catches, I'd say over. I don't know
where
you
are at now.
I don't know. What do you have?
12?
It's probably not fair. He's had 7, and then what do you have? 1 against Duquesne, he got hurt, and then 3 or 4 against LSU. So maybe
he had 4 for 60 against LSU. So 5. So what do you have? 7 for 149.
So 12. All right.
So 4 a game. So that gets him to 48. But those numbers might be going up.
I think so.
Those numbers might be going up. He definitely. He's averaging 80 yards a game, which would put him right around 1,000. And I think those numbers are about to go up. Now, he is going to be, when you're just talking about defensive schemes, he's put enough on film now where he's the top of the scouting report. And Boston College will have a safety over the top a lot, which really, really should free things up for everybody else. That is such a weapon to have, a guy that requires special attention. Because that frees everything up on the other side. That's why that 2,000, it helped that the offensive line and the quarterback and the running backs and everything else. But the reason that Kelvin Benjamin and Rashad Green were able to and Kenny Shaw, for that matter, were able to have those big moments is because, okay, who are you going to double? Like, if you're going to, and Kelvin's the matchup nightmare, so he got a lot of attention. But if he's getting a lot of attention, well, number 80 is awesome. And the same thing with Rashad Green. Okay, you got to give him special attention. Okay, well, now you can't cover Kelvin one-on-one. It just frees everything up. So, if you have to shade coverage over to one side of the field, man, you should put a lot of pressure on that safety on the other side with 2 wide receivers over there, a wide receiver and a tight end. There should be things opening up all across the field if you have a guy that's requiring double coverage or at least a lot of attention.
MyBookie.ag, it is winning season over at MyBookie. When you sign up and use the promo code WARCHANT, your first deposit will be doubled on the spot. I think they're even going to give you a chip that you can use on their online casino as well. So you can put it on a blackjack game or roulette, and then use that money to go into the sports book and put it down on these games going down this weekend. It's still 16.5 points. The over-under is 48.5. We'll make our game picks on the War Chant Report. We'll talk about it a little. But, that's a lot of points, though. I was really, still confident. A lot of points, though. 16.5 is a lot to give. So we'll see how that goes. Corey will unveil his locks of the week during our live show, or maybe on the next show. But we'll be live at 6 o'clock later today. But, Corey, you're going to have to check out MyBookie and pick out 3 proposition games, put it together for the people so they can live the high life. Get the excitement that you get when you bet on the ponies and bet on your games.
Yeah, absolutely, Aslan, because I crush every bet I make. I'm actually hitting it about 100% for my life. Woo. So, guys, ride with me. I don't remember ever losing a bet. So ride with me, and I'll make you all millionaires.
MyBookie.ag. Use that promo code WARCHANT. Again, your first deposit will be doubled. You can bet on anything, anytime, anywhere. Not your father's bookie. It's MyBookie.ag. To play devil's advocate a little bit here, Corey, on the injury stuff, which, again, we can't talk too much specifically about, and we don't have a lot of specifics on it either. You mentioning Ira talking about people trying to, look at our practice footage like Zapruder film and looking at these photos, and people are like, well, when was this photo taken? Somebody was talking about, hey, I'm not going to get excited one way or the other or optimistic because I'll always remember seeing Caden Lyles in practice video and then, 2 days later finding out he's out for the season. So, guys were present and accounted for at practice, but we'll see just how much that kind of affects, where their standing will be. I mean, I like what you said on the other show the other day about, hey, listen, we'll know thumbs up, thumbs down, long-term prognosis on guys if it's a major one after the game. But I do feel goodish, on the whole. But there's, I'm sure there's no way they with the way those guys went down, the way things looked, it'd be crazy almost if they came out of that thing totally unscathed. So at least, for, multiple weeks, that would be crazy. But we'll try to figure out ways to cryptically maybe relay information to you folks. But check out the website, observations, practice video, all that stuff is over on the site. What is your bigger concern right now, though, Corey, with whether Robert Scott misses 1 week or however many weeks, and whether Jared Verse misses 1 week or however many weeks? We're not talking a lot about, Malcolm Ray's a guy who went down too. So, I mean, right now with the depth being pushed, at several important positions, quarterback with Jordan going down, offensive line, it's starting to stack up now. Now the defensive line's starting to feel it too. Is offensive line more of a concern for you when it comes to depth and injuries, or is defensive line now maybe the more concern because of what we've seen happen here?
Well, and defensive line, mainly because of what I saw Friday night. That was not a good defensive line effort, especially, Fabian Lovett's a really big deal. That was very apparent against Louisville. And if he can't go, if he can't go, you've got to find a way to survive. You did it once against Louisville. You've got to find a way to survive without your best defensive tackle, and you might have to find a way to survive without your best defensive end. Like, there's a chance that neither one of those guys are playing, and they are your 2 best players on defense. And, the advantage you have over Boston College is Boston College has a really bad offensive line. They are struggling to run the ball. They have been decimated by injuries. Well, now you're the strength, what I think is probably the strength of your team defensively, it's hamstrung quite a bit. Like, not only do you not have Fabian Lovett, you might not have one of his backups. Malcolm Ray went out of the game. So you're really stretched thin at defensive tackle. I asked Norvell about some of the guys coming on, the young guys at defensive tackle, because they're going to have to. There's a chance that they're going to have to play. And whether that's Farmer actually stepping up and starting to make plays, not just be on the field, but make plays. Jared Jackson's had a pretty nice season, but he's got to raise his level, I think. And then you just go down the line. Robert Cooper has to raise his level of play. And he might be dealing with stuff. I don't know, but he's out there. He's got to play like Robert Cooper. And then there's who else? Bishop Thomas. Guys like that.
Daniel Lyons is the guy that he mentioned.
Yeah, maybe Briggs moves inside, but do you do that with if you're without your other defensive end? There's real question marks of that defense, but I think the offensive line, if you watch that game when Darius Washington came in, they held up okay. They held up fine. I think now you're scraping the bottom of you're scraping it. The limits of your depth you're testing right now. You've already lost 2 dudes for the year. You thought you had a rotation of 9 probably. Well, 2 of them are gone, and one of them maybe is out this week at least, and he's your starting left tackle. So you've lost 2. You probably have lost, I shouldn't say probably, you definitely lost 1. You might have lost your other tackle. And that's not a great recipe either, but I feel better about the depth on the offensive line, the guys that are filling in, because I think they have experience. They played a lot of football. The guys that are filling in for like Fabian Lovett and Jared Verse have not really accomplished much of anything at the college level. Yeah. Leonard Warner's been here 5-6 years. He's going to have to play a lot of Patrick Payton. These guys are going to be playing more than they ever have, and they've got to be better than they've been. So I just think there's more of an unknown with the defensive line. I had a bit of a question mark about the defensive line before the season even started, about the depth of it. And now that's being really tested. And if Lovett and Verse can't go, those are your 2 NFL guys. Those are your 2 best players up front. And that is going to make things easier for Boston College considerably. I just think the difference between Lovett and his backup and Jared Verse and his backup is much more substantial than the difference between Robert Scott and Darius Washington at left tackle. Or Bless Harris and Turnentine at right tackle. I just think there's a bigger disparity there.
I mean, other than, I don't know, maybe like Tatum Bethune or Johnny Wilson, it's probably the biggest drop-off from, 1 to 2 on your 2 deep. Like when you talk about going from Fabian to, especially my third string, because if Malcolm can't go, although maybe Jarrett Jackson, we're, maybe underselling him a little bit. But we talked about it throughout camp, man. That was the one thing. Now, listen, they went and they attacked the heck out of the portal. They brought in all these wide receivers. One of them's got to work out. They went into the portal. They got Demetri Emanuel. They got Jason Turntine. I mean, they recruited all these freshmen. And they'll figure it out. But, defensive tackle was that one spot that you and I were kind of like, listen, man, we really like Fabian and Robert. But behind that, Jarrett seems enticing. I mean, he's a very tall young man. He's got physical tools. Malcolm Ray, can he hold up to the rigors of playing a lot of downs and a lot of snaps? Well, if he's in a rotation, it won't be as big of a problem. And apparently had some pretty good tackle for loss numbers and production for a second string guy. But it's just crazy how things can change very quickly in terms of how much you like where you're at, and then one guy goes out and you're like, oh boy. Especially when it's a guy like Fabian, especially when it's a guy like Jared, and especially I think at the defensive end spot, because there hasn't been anybody that's been nearly as explosive and dynamic as Jared. But
now, I did like what I saw.
Weak offensive line. So
I did like what I saw out of McClendon for flashes of that Louisville game. He had the sack in the first half. That was a big sack. It came right after the Rodemaker interception, where I thought Louisville was going to go down and make it at least a 2-score game, maybe a 14-point game. And he had a sack that kind of ended their drives, ended their hopes there. And then in that last interception, he's the one that forces him out of the pocket. He beats the tar out of that tackle. So McClendon's going to start playing with more confidence, and I think he's a decent player. He's not Jared Verse, but I think he's a decent player. I liked what I saw from him. But, yeah, and look, man, the reason that it concerns me, the defensive line, isn't just because – it's not because I don't believe in those guys that are playing behind Lovett necessarily or Verse, but I saw the game Friday night. They got run through. A good port. It was not just Cunningham running.
Yeah, but the last 2 drives they held up.
Exactly right, and that was good to see. And you hope they can build on that. And I also think there's something to having done it now, being on the field when it matters, and being on the field when you win a game. I think that matters. Being the side that clinches a game, and then also you're not facing a track star at quarterback. Finally, the Jerkovich can run. He's a Jerkovich, sorry. He's a pretty good athlete, and he can move, but he's not Malik Cunningham. Yeah. So I think that changes the way you defend, too, when you're so worried about the quarterback keeping it. I don't think you're as worried about this quarterback keeping it as you have been the previous 2 weeks. So that will be so hopefully the run defense will be a little better. And basically what you need, man, you just need your defensive tackles to keep the offensive linemen. I mean, it'd be great if you push them back. You can't allow BC to run the ball. Make them one-dimensional. But if you just keep the offensive linemen off your linebackers can go make plays. They're pretty good linebackers, man. Let them be free to go make plays. Keep those linemen off them, and Florida State should be able to control the running game, you hope. And if you can control the running game, you're probably going to win the game. But if you get gashed like Louisville was gashing you, that's going to be problematic.
You know, it's week 4. I think everybody's pretty much playing a conference opponent. I mean, it's just really tough. I mean, Wake Forest is taking on Clemson, noon, in Winston-Salem. Clemson's still a 7-point favorite. But, I mean, this matchup, you know, BC's 1-2. They lost to Rutgers by 1, pretty much got blown out by Virginia Tech. Final score really wasn't indicative of just how badly they were, you know, just kind of outmanned and outmatched. Their one win was last week against Maine. They trailed at a certain point in that game. They're 130th in the country in running the ball. They don't even average 50 yards per game running the ball. They got
how many teams are in the country? 110? Like how?
Like 135, I think.
So they're almost dead last?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
that's crazy. Boston College too, man. Remember back in the day? That was their calling card.
Patrick Garwo is he's a talented running back, but right now he's not having a very strong season. They're passing
the O-line. The O-line's just really bad.
Oh, just think about where Florida State is, but like double it, and then you weren't even starting on as good of ground as Florida State was. Like they had this guy Christian Mahogany, who I think might have been one of the top 5 rated guards on McShay or Kuiper's board. He got lost to the season in the spring, and I think they actually wanted to go after Dimitri Emanuel. There's this interesting quote out there in the offseason where they were, Jeff Hafley got, asked, like, hey, man, like, you didn't do anything to really address your offensive line in the portal. What's up with that? And he gave this kind of cryptic response about, like, listen, you have to find guys that are good enough, that fit, and then also how much do you have to spend to get these guys? And then the context of the story was, it was believed that they were involved with Dimitri Emanuel, who ended up going to Florida State, but he had a pre-existing relationship with Alex Atkins, the offensive coordinator and line coach, so maybe it wasn't a purely NIL sort of deal. But that offensive line is absolutely battered and bruised, so maybe it won't be nearly as daunting for this defensive line.
That's why it's just bad luck. Like I feel like that if Fabian Lovett and Jared Verse were playing, like I knew for sure they were going to play and they were healthy, and this was the defense that played against LSU, I feel like Florida State would win by 25 or 30 points. They would have no shot. They just wouldn't. Yeah. They could not block Fabian Lovett and Jared Verse consistently for 4 quarters, and they would wreak havoc. But if you don't have those guys, they got a shot. Because we just don't know. I hope and I think that the Florida State guys that will be playing will still be too much for the Boston College offensive line because it's beleaguered. It like Aslan said, it's battered and bruised. But we don't know until they go do it. So it would be such a mismatch if you had your starting defensive line. It would be an utter mismatch. Right now, it's probably still a bit of a mismatch, but not nearly as much if 0 and 5 can't play.
Last thought kind of on this, and then we'll probably throw to the reaction from Michael Langston and myself to the Blake Nichelsen commitment.
Okay, all right.
So we'll see how that goes. The one kind of mild concern I have, although when Mike Norvell talked about how much respect he had for Boston College and how well coached they are and Jeff Hafley, part of me is like, well, if he really was nervous or scared, maybe he wouldn't be so effusive in his praise for them. But right now they're 42nd in total defense. They have a lot of NFL kind of pedigree on the coaching side of things, which didn't really fare all that well for them last year. Jordan, the offense, did a pretty good job against them. But I heard this on a podcast with Ryan Russillo, and Trent Dilfer was talking about it. I am a little bit worried about maybe the way they'll try to confuse and give some crazy looks to Tate early on, and then if you do have some turnovers, that can be the thing that's going to make this a long night for Florida State. They're going to have to really fight for 4 whole quarters, which maybe you think they will, Corey, at this point. But, Trent Dilfer was talking about, they were talking about Tua and how it seemed like Tua had a lot of easy throws for Miami in the second half of their big comeback against Baltimore, and a lot of that was just to kind of give him some confidence, get him set up and rolling. And Trent Dilfer was saying, as a quarterback, you're going to have, you'll have to play quarterback for maybe 10 or 12 snaps as a thrower. The rest of them, it's your coach giving you is out X and O'ing the opposition and giving you some really easy throws that just schematically the defense can't keep up with. But, yeah, there's going to be 10, 12, 15 where, you're going to have to run around. You're going to have to scramble. You're going to have to, buy some time, look some guys off, create some things yourself. And that kind of started making me think about this is going to be kind of a cool little chess match maybe because, listen, Hafley, his D coordinator, was the linebackers coach of the Bengals a few years ago, so they have a lot of NFL sort of experience. Again, didn't do all that well for them last year, but they're going to want to create confusion for Tate, and it's going to be can Johnny Wilson, man. I think so much of it's going to be Johnny Wilson. Can he create some sort of ease for Tate to get into a comfortable start? Because if he doesn't turn the ball over early, they'll win the game, and I don't want to say comfortably, but I don't think we'll be biting our nails the way we were against Louisville. But if he's confused early on and BC gets some short fields and they can maybe pop a play or two at Zay Flowers, then that's going to be all right, here we go, man. We're still in win small mode, which I'm not complaining about. Let's just win these games. But could that maybe be a pretext to what this game could be a tricky one for Florida State is an NFL sort of background, defensive-minded staff, creating some tricky looks for a guy who hasn't really started a major game in his career.
Well, this number one, that's assuming that Tate is starting. And
that's true.
We don't know that at all. But, yeah, I think the recipe for Boston College to win this game is to take advantage of Tate is starting, of a guy that still has not proven a ton and has been a lot risky with the football. Yeah. He's had a penchant for throwing interceptions and very few attempts. So that's how you get in the game. That's how you stay in the game and put pressure on him. Now look, if I knew for a fact that Jordan Travis was playing, I would think if he was playing and healthy, I would think the floor for Florida State offensively would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 28 to 30 points would be the floor. Because that's how much I believe in Jordan Travis right now and his weapons. And this offensive line, frankly. I just thought, and Norvell is a play caller. All of it, I was just so impressed with what we saw Friday night. So that would be the floor at home. It's 28 to 30 points. And you trust that Jordan's not going to turn the ball over a ton. And that, look, 30 points should be enough to beat a team that's been so bad offensively, even if you don't have a couple of really good linemen. That you're thinking Boston College will maybe score 20 to 23 would be their ceiling. But without Jordan Travis, if it is Tate Rodemaker, man, it is still way up in the air. I love what I saw from that dude in the second half on Friday night. Okay, well, now you got a whole nother challenge. Maybe you've known you're the quarterback for the whole week. How do you handle that? How do you handle the pressure that comes with that? How do you handle a defense game planning for you? Louisville didn't take away the middle of the field. They didn't take away the RPO where you just have one read. Maybe Boston College does and makes you go to that second read. Maybe you get happy feet. They are a better defense than Louisville, I think.
Yeah, no, they are.
They gave up 22 to Rutgers. They gave up 27 to Virginia Tech. It's not a terrible defense. So it's going to be a bigger challenge. You are at home, that helps, but man, turnovers are the great equalizer. And if Tate Rodemaker, if he starts and plays, cannot make the critical mistakes, then yeah, I feel good about him and his development. And I think he can win the game. But man, stuff gets dicey real quick. I'm not convinced, and I know it was 2 years ago. If Tate plays the whole game against Jacksonville State 2 years ago, I don't know they win that Jacksonville State game. No. You can start spiraling. I hope that's through with him. I hope that Friday night was the turning point of his career. I just hope, and there's a chance it could be a good chance probably. I mean, he went and proved something to himself and to his teammates. But I still think Norvell, if Tate Rodemaker is playing in this game, would do himself a huge service by not throwing too much on the kid's plate. Not just thinking, all right, well, he proved he could do it on the stage. Let's empty it all. He can do it all. Make it simple. Make it, and we use this example. I've used it way too much. I haven't used it lately. But like when EJ took over for Christian Ponder, when EJ was a freshman in 2009, Jimbo, I thought, did a great job of simplifying everything. Rollouts, easy passes to tight ends, over and over. Just get him in a rhythm. Make him feel good. Use his legs. Rodemaker's not Jordan Travis or Malik Cunningham, but he's not 2021 Mackenzie Milton either. He can move a little bit. Yeah. You let him use his legs. Get outside the pocket. Easy throws, man. Easy throws. And tell the kid it's okay to punt. All those things. That's what Norvell gets paid a lot of money to do. That's what Tokarz gets paid to do. If Tate Rodemaker's your quarterback, have a game plan that goes to his strengths, which do not have him, it's just a solid plan. Use his strengths and make sure he knows to not be loose with the football.
Yeah, I mean, the first play of the game that Tate came into was after a sack, and it was 3rd and long, and they let him throw the ball. So
that's what I'm saying. That's another thing. Like, and his interception came on 3rd and 26 because he had an intentional grounding and then I think another penalty or something, or maybe he was sacked again. But it was 3rd and 20 something. It's like, man, run the ball. Something safe, Mike. Something safe in that spot. That's what I want him to that's what I want maybe Norvell to understand, or Tokarz to understand, Atkins to understand, is just because he loosened it up a little bit and you saw a light doesn't mean it's bright sunshine and he can handle everything now. Like, still temper it a little bit and now if he's in the second quarter and he's in a rhythm and you feel good and he's seeing things and he's seeing the picture, as Adam Fuller always says, then maybe expand a little bit, maybe get a little more comfortable and confident. But I would go into that game with kid gloves. If Tate Rodemaker is the quarterback. And now if Jordan Travis is the quarterback, go score 50. But if Tate Rodemaker is your quarterback, I go into it with kid gloves. And I ease him into the game plan. I ease him into this and, get him some confidence and make sure he's seeing the picture before you really unloose. Or just throw it up to 14.
Yeah. And again, to underscore Corey's point, and it sounds like we're sort of tipping that Tate's going to start, but we have I would
don't have an
idea.
Yeah, I really don't.
Probably tip it stronger if I knew something, so I could fill you folks in, because I know these are the burning questions that you diehards have. You just want to know who your starting quarterback is going to be, but there hasn't been any sort of tip off or anything about him being the starter. But just again, these are the things that might come up in the course of a game against them. I think that's the only way. These are the only sort of ways I think Florida State ends up in a really tight ball game. Otherwise,
backup quarterback that struggles.
Yeah.
That's where I think you could lose a game as a 17-point favorite. A backup quarterback that starts to see ghosts and starts to struggle. I think, and we talked about it on headlines. We talked about it. We've talked about it. You and I, and then Norvell said it after the game. Man, Jordan Travis might be one of the best players in the country.
Yeah, man.
Like, literally, you might have a quarterback who's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Can you say otherwise after the first 3 games that he's played? Like, he's been great.
Yes.
So that might just be who you got there. You also might have one of the best receivers in the country. Or maybe it's just one game. I don't know. But
I don't think so. I don't think it's one game. I think he's.
Oh,
legit,
you're saying
yes.
you think he might be? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not
I do
being
too.
cautious at all. I'm all.
Yeah. So you might have 2 real stars kind of on this offense. That's why that I get why people want to know about Jordan Travis, but I just think for the whole season, you have to like what you're seeing from the quarterback position, and I just think that's why I thought that if Jordan Travis was playing, for sure that this is an automatic easy dub. If he's not playing and you got a backup, well, that's where things can get dicey. But that's how much I believe in Travis. If he's healthy, man, who can't they beat?
Alabama and Georgia. And that's fine. We're not going to see those teams.
You're not going to play those guys unless it's in the playoff, and then you'll take that.
Absolutely. All right, then. I'll pull this up maybe for when we do our Renegade Express. We'll be live today, by the way, which I buried the lead. I kind of clumsily mentioned it during the MyBookie read, but we'll be live 6 o'clock on Wednesday. That will be your Thursday podcast, and then we'll do Renegade Express. Probably get that thread up, I don't know, Thursday morning or so. Leave it open for a few hours for you folks to go and hop in there. Right now, Florida State has 2 out of the top 7 receivers when it comes to I don't even know how they're sorting this by average yards per game. So Johnny's third, averaging 86.7 yards per game. Pokey's seventh, averaging 70 yards per game. So
Okay. All right.
I must back. I mean, they probably have the best receiving core in the conference.
Well, I don't know about that, but maybe. I don't know. I don't know enough about the rest of the guys. It certainly doesn't appear to be Miami.
No.
Those guys struggled a little bit.
I mean, North Carolina's going to get that Josh Downs kid is back, and they've got a guy
and that
done
guy's
pretty good.
That is a difference maker there. But look, man, the Florida State, like when you look at these skill guys, I don't think they've come close to tapping what Micah Pittman can be. I think he will start making more plays than you've seen. That didn't work. I mean, once Jordan went down against Louisville, it basically became, man, go look at 14, throw it to 14. I think Micah Pittman is going to make a big difference for this offense still. I think Pokey has proven what he is. Johnny Wilson might be a budding superstar. And then, Winston Wright's on the team. And eventually, some point, he might join the team. And then you also have Malik McClain, who made a great catch in the end zone for a touchdown that we haven't really talked about a lot. They like Darian Williamson. Deuce Spann had a long catch that I saw in practice on Tuesday. Like, they have some dudes that you start to get a little excited about maybe the potential, where last year you're just like, what is this? This year you see these guys and the growth of the dudes that were here, and then also the influx of the transfers, and you're like, yeah, man, and plus those running backs, you're like, yeah, this is a pretty good skill group. I would say they're above average at wide receiver, and I think they're above average at running back. I think tight end is probably average overall, but you can't be great at everything.
No, you can't.
Not yet. Maybe Georgia. By the way, Georgia, that kid, the kid from LSU, the Eric Gilbert kid, has still not played for Georgia.
Yeah.
And they don't need him because the tight end they have is the best player in college football. It's unbelievable. Just let's go get a kid from Napa Valley, and he's going to be the best player in the sport. Awesome.
Oh, man. All right, that's a wrap for Corey and I. We'll be live later tonight, 6 p.m., and then Renegade Express will be your Friday program. That thread will be up Thursday morning. Get involved over at warchant.com. It's only $1, but only for like another week or so. So hurry up and get on it. Michael Langston, talking recruiting, coming up right after this.
Growing up, my dad used to take me to the game at the stadium. We'd watch our favorite team play, and then we'd always eat at Zaxby's. That's why it means so much to me that Zaxby's is the official chicken of college fans. To me, they go together perfectly. It reminds me of my dad and...
Oh, come on, Ref! Are you serious? Get some glasses! Terrible call!
Now I take my kids to the game, and we always eat at Zaxby's too. It's tradition.
We're proud to be the official chicken of college fans. Zaxby's, indescribably good.
And don't forget to listen in for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week every Monday on Wake Up Warchant.
Go with it, Michael. Breaking news on this late Tuesday night. They got a commitment. What do we know? Who is he?
Linebacker Blake Nichelsen out of Manteca. I'm going to say Manteca or Manteca. Actually, Manteca, California. 4-star linebacker. Essentially, basically a top 100 type of linebacker. I'm really high on him. I've liked this kid for a while, and I've really felt like this was a guy that FSU really early on just put everything into this guy. Obviously, a tough battle with Oregon, but FSU got the job done. Certainly, I think the season certainly didn't hurt how things are going, but I think ultimately with this decision, I think it came down to how FSU recruited him. They got to know him personally before they offered. I think other schools, they offered over because he's really talented. They didn't really get to know him the way FSU did. I think that really resonated with Blake throughout the process. That was a big deal. And obviously the feeling he had when he was on campus, he said that many times. Both times he visited once, officially in June, and then took another visit in July for the Seminole Showcase. And it was just clear every time he was here, there was a different feeling when he was at FSU. Sure, Oregon's great. They got a lot of nice stuff over there, but you really sensed something that was special when he was on the FSU campus. The fans really helped out a lot. He mentioned that when he committed tonight about how, a lot of the FSU fans are so passionate and they're really into it and just they knew his name and all that stuff, which is not normal for kids that are from, out of state, especially in California. So I think overall it was just a lot of things that really just led him to Florida State. I've really liked their chances ever since he took that July visit. I really felt like that was everything they needed. He needed to see, and certainly you saw a different bonding when he was around the other commitments during that time for the showcase. And man, did they get a hell of a linebacker. This guy can play, very athletic, fast to the ball, great instincts, gets off blocks really quick, and just everything you're looking for from a linebacker that certainly we've seen some of with the team this year. But to add a piece like that of a position that they desperately need and need to add guys that are top guys, Blake Nichelsen is a huge pickup for FSU and keeps that recruiting momentum going.
Michael, you talked about this team needs to win, and then we'll see the fruits of that labor kind of pay off. A lot of guys kind of waiting, seeing what's going on. His decision was already kind of announced in advance here, but how much of this 3-0 start do you think is to credit for him pulling the trigger tonight?
Yeah, fruits of labor, they're there. 3-0 certainly helps. I think it kind of just, for me, I think he was already leaning that way. I think it just solidified that every box can be checked off when you're talking about, finishing it off. I think it was a small part, but I think it was an important part where he wanted to see how they looked. Certainly, when you see Tatum Bethune flying around, Kalen DeLoach making plays everywhere, even DJ Lundy in there, doing some nice things. So when you see that and you see the scheme of what they're doing, I think that certainly was. I think it was bigger about what the linebackers look like than the team, because I think he felt really comfortable about where they're going, where this team's going, where this program's going. And I certainly think that LSU game really helped. It kind of showed you kind of the fight of this team learning how to win, and I think that really certainly captured his attention. But I think things were kind of set in motion a little bit. I think this just solidified it and finished it off with the winning.
How about our guy Rob Rathbun here, man? It's not even like a show, and he's just out here dropping bags.
Nice.
Thank you, Rob. You're the man. We got a question from Chris and Perry George. Do we know if he plans to enroll early, Michael?
No, he's not an early enrollee. I put that in my eco post I just put up. He wants to finish his high school. I'm assuming he probably plays another sport. So he probably, feels obligated to finish that sport. But I do expect him to sign in December. So, but he'll get there in the summer. But I think that's something that's kind of important to him to finish out the year, so he won't be a early enrollee from everything I've gathered.
I mean, the cool thing here, Michael, it seems like, is this staff is identifying guys kind of early on, maybe when they're not as heralded. If I'm not mistaken, I think he started off as a 3-star when we first saw his name come across the radar. Now he's a 4-star blue chip guy. What does this kind of, display and demonstrate about this staff and their ability to find, maybe diamonds in the rough?
Yeah, I think, several things. First off, Derek Ray, phenomenal job with him. He's the GM for FSU. He has ties to certainly Blake. They're both from Matika, California. So Blake has some ties there, or Derek has some ties there, but that helped. That just kind of got their foot in the door. Obviously, Derek did a phenomenal job, but I think the relationship with Randy was a big deal. And also just kind of shows their reach of what they can do and where they can go with a program. It kind of solidifies kind of where we talk about recruiting momentum, Aslan, and that's kind of it solidifies that when you get a guy, because they weren't always the leader. I mean, they were actually early on, Oregon was like the solid favorite for him. A lot of people thought that, he was going to Oregon. Then he took that official to FSU in June. Then you started seeing things kind of change a little bit where it really caught his attention. So it was FSU had to rally and come back because they got in later than a lot of these other schools like Oregon, UCLA. They had already offered him. FSU was a later offer, but they did a great job with the relationships. Like I said, before they offered, they really got to know him. So I think that was what really solidified, I guess, their position. And then the connection he felt when he was at FSU. But I think it says a lot about their recruiting ability. There's a lot of good recruiters on this staff. I think it shows just kind of how good Randy is as far as connecting with players, and then too, their reach. It doesn't matter if you're in California or wherever you live. That this staff is really good and really elite at relationships. That doesn't mean they're the best recruiters everywhere on the staff, but it does tell you they're all really good with relationships. And when you're winning, it's easy to sell the other stuff, and that's kind of where they're at, and certainly why they were able to nab such an elite prospect like Blake Nichelsen.
What stands out about his game the most to you, Michael? I mean, when you look at it and talking to people in the industry, when they size up and scout Blake Nichelsen, I mean, what is it that makes him a 4-star, top 200 recruit in the entire country?
Obviously, I follow him a lot every week because we do the Friday Night Rewind. I really study kind of what he does each week. Obviously, his speed really jumps out to me. He's really quick. He's got really good speed, gets off the line really fast, and athletic, super athletic. I think he's already has like 8 touchdowns on the year offensively. They run him, they throw the ball to him, and you can't be. I mean, if you're not a great athlete, you're not going to be able to do that. And certainly, he brings a lot to athleticism to the table as far as with his game, but the way he gets off blocks and his lateral movements from side to side is very impressive. Violent hitter. He comes there with bad intentions when he hits people. I think the only thing I would like to see more of is just see how he covers backs out of the backfield or covers backs downfield. We don't see that as much in his game, but everything else, there's a check mark there because the way he gets off the line is really good. His instincts of feeling out plays are really good. Getting off blocks is really good, and he gets a lot of sacks and certainly likes power slamming people, apparently.
Yeah. I was afraid he was going to end up like in a Big 12 or Big 10 school and maybe do some Oh, look at that, man. That might be unnecessary roughness. I saw somebody get tackled like that. It was called unnecessary.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure Randy and Norvell are going to kind of cater that as far as, hey, let's just bring him to the ground and not like power bomb him like Hulk Hogan.
And just, in talking and getting to know Blake over the weeks and months here, Michael, I mean, what were some of the things you think that really, you mentioned you touch on some of this stuff, but, when did you, what could kind of sense in you that things were turning with him and what kind of maybe convinced him and sold him ultimately, you think, on Florida State over some really good suitors over on the West Coast closer to home?
Yeah, I would go all the way back to that July visit. First off, before I start talking about what Blake's told me, like I could sense a different in Blake because of the June visit. It was kind of like, hey, I'm on an official visit. I'm seeing what this is like. I'm getting a feel for it. He was like feeling out FSU, like how do you feel and stuff. This July visit, I really saw him interact with. I saw a lot more smiling from Blake. There was a lot more interaction with recruits, which he never did in the June visit. There was a much more comfort level, like he was already part of the family. Like I'm not saying that he committed then, but I'm saying you could tell the comfort level was extremely high. So I saw it then. And then when I would talk to Blake, both from the June visit and the July visit, and even after the LSU win, the win over LSU, it was a certain thing of he didn't talk the way he talked about FSU. Like when he talked about FSU, everything was really personal. Everything was really like, hey, I love their football. I love what they do with the football program. I love what they do with the linebackers. I love what Coach Norvell's doing. I love his fire, all that stuff. The biggest takeaway was the one thing that was different is the way he felt about this family at FSU. It was different. The relationship he had was different where he could talk about anything because I go back to, my main reason of why I think a real big part of it was the way they recruited him was a big part of kind of setting the tone of why I think FSU ultimately won. Like they didn't just recruit him as hey, it's a 4-star linebacker. Let's go get him. It was kind of like, let's get to know him. Let's see what he's like. Let's see what his likes are. And let's also see if he's a fit for our culture, what we do and kind of fit. Obviously, we know he's a fit in talent-wise because he's a phenomenal player. But can he fit kind of in our culture of what we're doing? And I think he fit everything perfectly. And I think the big part is how they recruited him. The way they recruited him, the process of how he's recruited really led to kind of FSU getting, and then all the other stuff fell into place, like the connection with the university when he was at FSU several times, and then watching them on TV. He's like, I think they just nailed it with everything in this recruitment. They did a perfect job as far as the way they recruited, and then also how they played on the field. Because I've said that multiple times for everyone out there. Product on the field is going to be a big deal for a lot of these recruits, and FSU has nailed it. Home run, whatever adjective you want to use, FSU has nailed it on the field. Yes, it hasn't looked pretty. Had to block an extra point to win the LSU game. Had to get a big interception. Had to get your backup quarterback to go in there and beat Louisville. But that stuff resonates with a lot of recruits, and winning's winning. And they're winning these games where last 2 or 3 years they haven't been. And when you win, it's pretty easy to recruit, Aslan.
The numbers on your screen do not factor in Blake's commitment.
I think it'll be at 17th as far as for what I was told. I think it'll be around 17, 16. So They will be moving up when that's changed over, guys.
I did some quick math. It'll be the 15th commitment if you don't include Keziah Holmes.
Right.
16th if you do include. So,
right.
And that's, helps out with that whole sort of blue chip, factor in here. So 50%. So they'll be over 50% now with the commitment of Blake Nichelsen, 4-star linebacker out of, how do we say it in California, Michael?
Manteca.
Okay. I was going to say Manteca. So thank God we got
Manteca. I think it was Manteca, but I don't know. Blake's going to correct me when I call him later. But either way, Manteca, California. Hopefully you got it right. If we didn't, Blake, give me a lesson. But either way, phenomenal news for FSU. The momentum is real. You can feel it. I've talked about this on the board throughout the week, and coming in, you got a big visit weekend coming up. A lot of good visitors. We'll have the full visitor list later. The buzz is there. It's real. It's real, and it's probably the highest I can remember under the Norvell era because everything's going in the right direction. It's not just, hey, if we win or if they win, they could be good, or FSU wins, they're going to be good. It's they're there, they're winning, and the culture is really good. You can see the buy-in, and now it's just about the consistency and keeping it going. Just keeping the product going. If you want to keep that momentum, just keep winning. And sounds simple, but I think that's really resonating with a lot of recruits. I think it's going to resonate with a lot of when they look at the transfer portal. I think it's going to be very effective in that. I think it's going to be very effective in the high school recruiting. And then they got another big one coming up, Mr. Hakeem Williams, 5-star wide receiver coming up on Friday. So I think there's a lot of momentum. Doesn't mean they're going to get everyone, guys. So don't think I'm saying they're going to get everybody, but it does mean the momentum is real, and what FSU's doing is resonating with a lot of recruits.
September 23rd. So that's what? Is that Friday?
Friday. Don't know the time yet, guys. I'll find out.
What do we think about that, though, Michael? Where's your gut at right now?
I think it's really close. I have not made a call there. I think it's a close battle. Your gut kind of wants to lean towards the team that's been there with Texas A&M being the leader for so long, but there is a lot of buzz about FSU. I keep hearing that every day. It seems to keep getting stronger. He's now I will say this: whether it's FSU or Texas A&M, which I think is going to be one of those two, I think his recruitment's just getting started because he's going to take visits. I've been told by people around Hakeem that he's going to take a few games in for FSU, and then maybe one of them the official. But the process is just going to get started even after he commits because he's going to take visits. But certainly it is big news either way if FSU was able to pull that off. But I think they're very much in there. I don't have a final call, but I think it could go either way. But like I said, gut tells you should pick Texas A&M, but you cannot ignore the buzz that's going on with Florida State with him. So I'm going to keep digging. Hopefully I have a final call before Friday. And, man, if that happened, internet might blow up if FSU pulls off Hakeem Williams. But certainly they at least know they got some big news certainly tonight with Blake Nichelsen. And it got a big weekend this weekend, Aslan. This is big because this is their first visit weekend where, they're playing an opponent that is in the ACC that – you can really sell to recruits to come over there, check out these teams, how they go. I think it's going to be a significant list. I know Jordan Hall is going to be there. I've heard DJ Chester is also going to be there. So it's going to be a significant amount of, commits and targets, and certainly a chance for FSU to showcase, again, this team and where they're going.
All right. Just joining us, wrapping things up here, Blake Nichelsen, 6'2", 215-pound linebacker out of Manteca, California, 4-star linebacker. As you see there on your screen, us over On3 have him ranked the 189th prospect in the nation, it looks like, if my screen's not mistaken me. So head over to the warchant.com premium recruiting board. It's where Michael lives, breathes, sleeps, eats, everything. All the information, more information on the commitment of Blake Nichelsen over there. And Michael will keep you guys posted as the Hakeem Williams commitment announcement approaches on Friday. Michael, as always, man. Well, thanks to Rob Rathbun, by the way, for throwing something
thanks,
our way.
Rob.
As always, we appreciate the information and the knowledge, Michael.
Anytime, man.
There we go. Have a great one, everybody. Again, the Noles land another linebacker. Moving on up.